What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for August 13th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. It is Tuesday. That means it's time for a little positivity / motivation. Today, we conclude our men's issues discussion on probably the most challenging, at least for me in my life, and that's relationships. And I say that because there's so many intricacies involved in relationships, especially if you're married. And I think all of the other topics we've talked about are so closely entwined with relationships. And I guess I'm going to start off by saying something. Relationships are tough. I don't care who you are, what kind of relationship you're in. There's so many variables, and the more things you add, the more complicated and tougher things get, whether it's a dog, marriage, a house, kids. And let me be the first to tell you, if you haven't noticed or realized this already, it's not a fairy tale. And there is no such thing as happily ever after, because life will throw you a curveball if things are going smooth. It always happens. And I'm not saying I'm miserable or you should be miserable. I'm just saying life is life. And relationships, especially marriage, they take work. And I'll be honest, I fell into that trap. I thought, this is going to be smooth sailing. We're married. Everything's great. And in 12 years, it has not been easy. And that's not to say I have a bad marriage. I think we have a very strong marriage. We're happy, but obviously we have issues. But to say the fairy tale, we're going to live happily ever after, no, people get sick. People lose their jobs. Shit happens. I mean, kids get sick. Kids get hurt. Kids have sports. Kids have this. Your job demands increase. Your job demands change. So, and I caution that because I'm not saying I'm not happy. It's not this. It's not that. I'm saying for anybody out there who says, my marriage or my relationship is perfect, they're lying to you. Or they're not dealing with reality, because life is not perfect. Life is not a smooth sailing thing. We've talked a lot on the Tuesdays about overcoming challenges and things like that. Life is full of challenges. There are bumps in the roads. You're going to have to take detours. So to say it's a fairy tale, there's a reason why those things are on TV. They're not real. It just does not happen. But like I said, 12 years, almost 12 years in October being married, and things are good. Even when they're not, they're good. It's how you overcome them and strengthen that. I mean, we fight all the time. Our biggest fights are over sex, money, and the kids. And a lot of times recently chores. And because that stems from work. And we talked about work issues and things like that. It's like, I'm exhausted. I had to do X, Y, and Z. I ain't doing this. Or, hey, I made dinner. You clean. And those are the little things. And I am not one here to give out relationship advice, because I struggle every day in my relationship. And my 50% or half, or whatever you want to say, and what I bring to it. But I think going into relationships with the idea that it's not going to be a fairy tale is great. And the other advice, and I talk so much over the 2 years worth of Tuesdays, or how many every year, like on the challenges and things like that, and comparing your page 1 to somebody else's page 100. Don't compare yourself to anybody else's relationship. I happen to have a good relationship with my mother-in-law. I know sometimes that's not always the case, but the lasting piece of advice I will take away from her long after she's gone is everybody's politics are different. And so the politics of my marriage are different than yours. So to compare the two are not the same. But again, we're still going to fight. It's a work in progress. There's no person that knows how to get under my skin more than my wife, and vice versa. But I think communication is the key to any relationship, whether it's romantic, marriage, friendship, whatever. And if you don't communicate, things are not going to go well. So I question the people that say everything is perfect, because what are you not communicating? What are you hiding? What is not coming out? And even then, communication is hard. Our MO for our communication is screaming, and then we talk things out. And I think it's because of the way our brains are wired. My wife tends to react a lot of times with more emotion, where I think things through very logically. But all of this to say, relationships are hard. They're not easy. It takes work. And anybody that tells you any different, and again, maybe it's just me, but I know a lot of the people in my inner circle, family and friends and coworkers, it's tough. It takes work. So if anybody tells you it's a fairy tale perfect, they're lying to you. I'm sorry, they're lying to you. And I apologize if you're one of those people out there right now that think you have the perfect relationship and it's a fairy tale, because I feel like you're not addressing something. But just know that relationships are tough. I'm right there with you every day. It's something different. And honestly, I wouldn't change it for the world. And again, all of those variables, whether it's a dog, the kid, the marriage, whatever, again, would not change it, but it's tough. And it's okay to admit that. And that was sort of like the purpose of doing this 4-part series is, as men, and if you're a lady out there, hopefully this is giving you some insight too into what goes through our minds. But we're expected to be the ones that are the rocks. And like, there are times where I don't care what happened at work. I'm sorry, I don't care. But if it's important to her, you got to take the time, listen, work through it. And again, in the same way with kids, whatever. But it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay. And I think a lot of times, and I had to go to therapy for this, sometimes we repress what we're feeling. And I guess the purpose of all this was to say it's okay to get your feelings. It's okay to have feelings. I think is hopefully your takeaway from this 4-part series. We all have our issues. No matter how big, how small, where they fit into the spectrum of what we've talked about. Maybe you're having more money issues than relationship issues. That's okay too. It's ebbs and flows, but it's okay to have those issues, and it's even more okay to talk about it. So if you need help, reach out to me. I'll get you in touch with a therapist. And like, I'm very open about that. When I first did it, it was sort of one of those things where it was kind of like a taboo thing. It did wonders for me. I highly suggest it if you need it. But we need to kind of change this narrative where it's not okay to talk about things that are bothering us, because truthfully, it's a very human emotion, or a human thing to have emotions, I should say, and to be bothered by things. And it's okay to talk about it. It's okay. If you're having problems with your relationship, with money, body image, kids, whatever, it's okay. Talk to someone about it. But to kind of wrap up the relationship thing, relationships are tough. They're great, don't get me wrong, but they are tough. They take work just like anything. And we talk a lot on Tuesdays about working hard toward achieving goals. A marriage or a relationship is no different than that. You have to put in the work in order to reap the rewards. And if you're not willing to put in the work, it's not going to work out. It's not going to last. And to go through life in a fairy tale like everything's perfect, it's not. And it's okay for things not to be perfect. I think that sort of is what I hope the takeaway for you guys for the past 4 weeks are. I'm glad to have this forum to be able to talk about some of these things. Hopefully you were able to get something out of the previous 4 weeks and what we've been talking about, kind of help break up the summer. But I will leave you with this, and she's the best. My mother-in-law. Everybody's politics are different, and I think comparing yourself, and I think that works in relationships and just in life in general. So hopefully that'll be your takeaway, but the politics are different. So what works for me will not work for you, nor should it, because everybody is different. But again, thank you for the past 4 weeks. It's been very therapeutic, to be honest, for me to kind of get these things out in a public forum. And at first I was nervous, I'm not going to lie, but to get them out there, it's kind of like, okay. And the feedback has been great. I'm sure you're getting something out of it, but thank you. We'll be back to our normal positivity and motivation. But I thought this was something that was important as a man, that we need to make sure it's okay to have feelings. So many, and things are shifting, I know, but a lot of you are my age or around my age, my generation, and it's kind of one of those things where you see our dads, where they're stoic, they don't have emotions, they don't talk about things, and it's just everything is fine. Well, guess what? Things most of the time, as I'm learning now as a parent and somebody who's been married, things weren't fine. But I'm letting you break the cycle, talk about it. It's okay. And that has been this week's Tuesday Motivation / Positivity. That concludes our men's issues, topics, and discussions. So thank you. I appreciate you all. But let's get back to sports now. All right, a couple housekeeping things before I get started. Not sure yesterday where I came up with the 22 straight games against sub 500 teams for the Phillies came from. I may have saw a stat and in my rage misread it. That is not true. They play the Marlins and Nationals, who are sub 500, but then 7 of the next 13 after that are against the Braves, and then you sandwich that in with the Royals and Astros. The schedule's still tough. So I apologize for the false information. I think it was in my rage, but I'm still pissed off about the Phillies. And they're back in action tonight. They need to go no worse than 4 of 6 out of these win 4 of the next 6. Truthfully, they should go 5-1. I'm still pissed off, and honestly, it's going to be tough because there's some people, it's their only time going down to the stadium. I get this team needs to be booed when they come on the field tonight. To be completely transparent and honest with you, that's how I'm feeling. This team needs to be booed. They need to know that, like, it's not this feel-good, oh, dancing on our own, we're overachieving. No, you had high expectations. You're not achieving them right now. And you need to know that we're pissed off about it. And maybe it'll spark something. I need, like, somebody. I miss Jimmy Rollins. I used to hate when he would call out Philly fans for this, that, and the other. But he knew he was holding us accountable because we held him accountable. I need Bryce or Schwarber or somebody to call us out or get pissed off because we're booing them, because we're not happy. I need to see some anger, some emotion out of this team. I'm not seeing it. And I know they're close-knit, this, that, and the other, but I'm not seeing the emotion from them. So they need to get booed. And if you're going down, boo them tonight. That's what they need. Forget this standing ovation stuff. No, they didn't do anything to deserve a standing ovation. They need to be booed because they're not playing to their potential. And they're, truthfully, maybe behind closed doors things, but outwardly, it looks like they're putting in zero effort and just kind of going through the motions. They need to get angry. They need to get that fire back, that spark. Boo them. Have them get pissed off that the crowd is booing them. I need Alec Bowen to be like, I hate this fucking place. Boo them. They need to be booed. They need to wake up. And like I said, minimum four out of the next 6 they need to win. Minimum. Truthfully, they should go 5-1, 6-0. But I need 4 minimum because the Dodgers, Mookie Betts is back. I can't think of his name. It just escaped my mind. The other starting, Walker Buehler. Or not Walker Buehler. Maybe it is Buehler. Whatever. Their other starting pitcher is coming back. Dodgers are coming for us. Milwaukee's right there. I mean, and listen, we've chased down the Mets before with less time, with the same amount of game lead that we have on Atlanta and the Mets right now. They're coming for us. So wake up, get your heads out of your asses, and if you're going down to the game tonight, boo. Not because it's Taijuan Walker on the mound. Boo because this team deserves to be booed. They need to know that we're angry. They need to know we're pissed off and we're not happy with the way they're playing. Maybe that'll light the fire under their asses. But yes, Taijuan Walker is back tonight. Forgive me if I'm not doing backflips because I'm so excited that Taijuan Walker is back. However, I maybe he's a better option than Phillips or Allard, but I don't know. If we could steal it tonight, it's been the Achilles heel of this team is winning the first game of a series. So Who knows? Rangers throwing live batting practice today, so hopefully help is on the horizon. But if you're going down there, boo this team tonight because they need to be booed. They need to know we're angry. They need to be angry. Everybody needs to be angry. And like we've been talking about, it's okay to have emotions. And sometimes anger is the emotion we need to show. And we need to be angry at this Phillies team because they need to be angry at the way they've been playing. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. All right, be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mott at Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Spread the word. Let people know what's going on here. We've got a lot of good things happening. One of my favorite parts of the day is recording this. So spread the word. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a comment. Whatever you got to do. Go to Philly Goat. Do your back-to-school shopping. Like I said, I saw them at a couple of the Eagles shirts were at Rally House. But if you go to phillygoat.com and use that promo code Jim Montgomery, you get 10% off, and you don't even have to leave your house. So go to Philly Goat, get your back-to-school shopping done. Be sure to use the promo code Jim Montgomery. Let's Ryan and the team over at Philly Goat know you're listening, and it helps to grow this thing. All right, some Sixers news, and the NBA schedule people are the best. The Sixers' home opener is against the Milwaukee Bucks on October 23rd. Doc Rivers makes his long-awaited return to the Wells Fargo Center. Speaking of booing, speaking of being angry, he's going to hear it. I don't want to see any Doc Rivers tribute videos because, truthfully, what did Doc Rivers accomplish in Philly that deserves a tribute video? The stupid face, like that's it. So you got to love the NBA schedule makers for that. Union are in action tonight out in Cincinnati, round of 16 in the Leagues Cup. Be great if they can win that and come down to the final 8. But they've been playing well, which is going to bode well once the final push toward the MLS playoffs come up. That's 7:30 tonight in Cincy. Joint practice for the Eagles today up in New England. Still no word on whether the starters will play any time on Thursday. But this is pretty much the most important day of training camp so far because it is against another team. I don't know if there'll be any video footage of it. Hopefully my boss and people I work with are not listening to this, but I will be searching and scouring the internet for any type of video. So I apologize in advance to the people I work with, but that's where my focus will be today. Plus it's summertime. We're good. We're set up for school year kicks off next week. I'm fine. It's not that bad. But the other big story was Hassan Reddick asked to be traded from the Jets. And let me be the first to say no. No. Get the thought out of your head. No. Under no circumstances. There's a reason why this dude was traded. And honestly, he's a Temple dude. You can see from behind me, I'm a big Temple guy. Loved him when he was at Temple. But no. There's a reason why he left. There's a reason why Howie didn't pay him. There's a reason why, and yes, the Jets are just a poorly run organization. There's a reason why they're not paying him. So no. The implications, though, are we're at least getting the third round pick, but it might mean that the opportunity for that to turn into a second round pick goes out the window. But the fact that Howie Roseman got a third round pick for this dude and he's still disgruntled, I will put some of this on the Jets apparently too, because it's the Jets. But Howie, we speak your name. Sorry that we questioned you. In Howie we trust, and we move on. We'll have more on the Eagles later in the show. But today, we're going to go back to 1972. And on this day in 1972, the Phillies split a doubleheader with the Expos at the Vet. Phillies won Game 1, 2-1. Steve Carlton picked up his 19th win in a complete game, 3-hit outing, had 8 strikeouts. He was on his way to winning 27 games and the Cy Young Award that year for a Phillies team that only won 59. Still one of the most ridiculous and amazing stats you'll ever see. Steve Carlton won 27 games. The Phillies only won 59. The Expos won Game 2, 8-3, but the big story was what happened in between the two games on the field. I'll put that in quotation marks if you're watching, air quotes. If you're listening, I'm putting it in air quotes, on the field. And that's because Bill Giles was hired a couple years prior in 1969 as the promotions director for the Phillies. Obviously, he worked his way up. Was just inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame last fall. But he was hired to take the franchise into a new era at the new ballpark, which was Veterans Stadium. Yes, there was a point in time, kids, where the Vet was state of the art and one of the crown jewel stadiums in all of Major League Baseball and the NFL. He wanted to go big. He wanted big promotions. He was like, let's get people excited to come to the ballpark. And he, for the most part, he did. He was responsible for introducing the Fanatic a few years later. He had the Hot Pants Patrol, all of the other different promotions, Philadelphia Phil and Phyllis. He had the parachute guy, or kite man, drop in the ball on opening day. But on this day, he decided that we should hire Karl Wallenda of the Flying Wallendas to walk across a tightrope from right field to left field at the Vet. He had seen that the St. Louis Cardinals did it at Busch Stadiums. He was like, why not us? So to set the stage, there was a 3/8 of an inch. Think about that. 3/8 of an inch wire rope, I guess you could say, or cable wire that ran, steel cable that ran across from right field to left field. It was 640 feet. It was about 140 feet above the ground. No net, because the Wallendas did not use nets. But of course, it's the Vet, and 40 Phillies players had to hold the wire to maintain the proper tension. I don't know if that's because they couldn't get it tight enough into the concrete or whether it was a safety thing or what. But Wallenda was like, yeah, man, 40 guys I'm putting my faith in. One guy doesn't hold it tight enough, I'm falling off. But this being Philly, this being Veterans Stadium, of course the wire didn't have the proper tension, because why would it? So afterwards, Wallenda told reporters that he just had a bad feeling once he got started, almost gave up about a quarter of the way in, actually sat down on the wire to kind of compose himself. But as a true showman said, the show must go on, stopped halfway through in between right field and left field, stood on his head on a 3/8 inch steel cable. Yeah. And then finished. The entire thing took him 17 minutes to do. He got paid $3,000 for his trouble. The fans at the Vet were entertained and enthusiastic about it. Let out a huge sigh of relief. Apparently, it was very quiet when he was doing it. Wallenda did say also that it was the toughest walk he ever had to make. But of course, it didn't go smooth because why would it? It's the Vet. So on this day in 1972, the Phillies split a doubleheader with the Expos, but Karl Wallenda of the Flying Wallendas tightrope walked from right field to left field at the Vet on a 3/8 inch wide steel cable wire, 640 feet total. Took him 17 minutes. He was nervous the whole time. He thought he was going to die, but then he still stopped and stood on his head. So I question, and I don't want to question this dude because he's one of the most famous acrobats in the world, but I question how worried he was if he's standing on his head halfway through. But this all happened on this day in 1972. All right, time to go to our Eagles preview. 20 questions in 20 days. Let's quickly recap yesterday's question. I asked, could we just chalk up last year's meltdown collapse to the Super Bowl hangover? 60% of you agreed with me that yes, it was all part of just losing the Super Bowl. It goes with the territory. Now, could be more to it. Could be a combination of two, but I think moving forward to this year, let's chalk it up to the Super Bowl hangover and see what we got this year. Today's question is just how hot is Nick Sirianni's seat? Everybody says, oh, he's on the hot seat. He's you can bet on it. He's one of the favorites to be one of the first coaches fired this year. But is he on the hot seat? I mean, I guess the short answer is yes. Yet, the short answer is yes. I'll get it out. But you can make the case for pretty much anybody on this team, player, coaches, they're all on the hot seat with the exception of Brandon Graham, who's retiring. So the question is not, is he on the hot seat? Just how hot is his seat? And even though he's on notice, I guess you could say, still don't think it doesn't mean he can't succeed. The CEO of the team. I hate that narrative because there's a lot of coaches who do have a similar title and similar role with their team that Nick Sirianni does. And the fact that they took play calling away and gave it to Kellen Moore, I mean, truthfully, the players have said this. I think this. You can see more. Right now in my school, the chief academic officer used to be our director of curriculum and instruction. Guess what? She could be heavily involved in curriculum and instruction, but that means she's letting other parts of the school go. So in the new role, she still oversees curriculum and instruction, but she also oversees this. She oversees that. So as the head coach, I'd rather my head coach know what the defensive guys are doing. I'd rather him know what the special teams are doing. I'd rather him not be worried about the next play call and say, hey, I need to challenge this play. Or, hey, it's 4th and 1. Let's do the tush push. Or, hey, maybe I ought to kick a field goal here. That's what he should be focusing on. So I hate the narrative that he's just the CEO of the team. Because truthfully, it doesn't make any sense. And he's actually able to have more input and, in a weird way, have more control over the team rather than just the offense. Just like my chief academic officer still is in charge of curriculum, but she's actually able to control more of the school and what goes on academically because she has a broader 30,000-foot view. But hey, I don't see them firing him early. The only way I see them firing him during the season this year is if they're 5-10 and they're trying to try things out. And to me, if they go 5-10, things went horribly wrong. So I think we'll be okay. I think he's too smart of a guy. I think the narrative that he's not a smart coach and doesn't know his football, I think I questioned that a little bit because obviously the dude is smart. You might not necessarily agree with his philosophy and things he does, but to say he's dumb or not football smart, doesn't have a good football IQ, I don't buy it. Yes, he needs to tone down his sideline antics somewhat, but he's a good game day manager as a coach, and I think that's going to help him. Not being in charge of the offense is going to help him with that. So again, is he on the hot seat? Yeah. I don't think it's that hot. It's like a lukewarm seat right now. That obviously could change. And like I said, I think everybody on this team is on the hot seat after the way things went down last year, with the exception of Brandon Graham, who's gone anyway. It's a big year for this team. Offense, special teams, defense, we got our eyes on you. So my question to you is Nick Sirianni on the hot seat? I don't think it's that hot right now. Like I said, I think it's lukewarm. Maybe you disagree. I don't see them making a change until after the season unless it goes terribly wrong. But let me know what you think. 267-495-8531 will get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Just how hot is Nick Sirianni's seat? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that and anything else Phillies sports related off your chest. You want to vent about the Phillies? Do you think we should boo them? Hell yeah, we should boo this team. Boo this team. Just like David from the, I forget his last name, but from the Real World said in Half Baked, boo this team. That's all there is to it. They need to know we're angry because we're angry, and that's okay that we're angry. On this day, in 1972, Karl Wallenda walked across the vet on a steel cable, 640 feet, 140 feet off the ground. Took him 17 minutes, and he lived to tell the tale. And then on the field, the Phillies split a doubleheader with the Expos. Hopefully, I'll be able to find some of that coverage. Again, if my chief academic officer is listening, forget anything else I said about not working. I will work today. Wink, wink. But Hopefully I will have some coverage of the live practice for you tomorrow. Let's get the Phillies on track. Like I said, maybe we do need to boo this team. Maybe we're being too nice to them. But let me know your thoughts on that and how hot is Nick Sirianni's seat? That is the question of the day. 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Thank you again for the past 4 weeks joining us for the discussion on men's issues. Again, when it comes to relationships, things are tough. It's not a fairy tale. Fairy tales aren't real. So if you're living a fairy tale or somebody tells you they're living a fairy tale, they're hiding something. Don't trust them. But know that it's okay. Relationships are tough. Marriages are tough. It's okay to admit that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. If it is perfect, something is not right. But almost 12 years into my marriage, I can honestly say we're happier than we've ever been. Yes, we fight, but that all comes with the territory. Again, thank you for joining. Hopefully you were able to take some things away over the past 4 weeks. And in all honesty, if you do need help, you need to talk to somebody, get something off your chest, reach out to a therapist. If you need help finding that, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll gladly help you and get you set up where you need to go, because it is important that as men, we are able to know that it's okay to have feelings. And that was the whole point of everything I had. All right, go. It's supposed to be another beautiful day. Go have yourselves a Tuesday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for August 13th, 2024. And until next time, boo the Phillies, and I will see you when I see you.